Hello, everyone, and welcome to the World of Wellness. This is the Wine and Wellness Week. I'm your host today, Jamie Dorley, with the co-host, the Godfather, Joe Messina. Welcome back, Joe.
Pleasure as always, and man, am I excited. Look who we have.
We are so excited to bring a special
The
guest
gut
on.
guy.
We've been a big fan of his since I first started listening to his radio show, and I think it was the late 90s. And then we had met in actually 20 years ago now, over 20 years.
Yep.
And I love what he's done over his career, starting out in traditional pharmacy and then transitioning. And, he didn't stop there with just the pharmacy degree. He got the naturopathic medical doctor degree. He was one of the original group with Jim LaValle and the CCN group.
Yes.
And he's been a client of Nutritional Frontiers, a mentor, a colleague, and a speaker at Nutritional Frontiers. And he's also a great guy to go golfing with, even if you don't know how to golf, because this guy brings out the best in me in every which way. So let's give a nice warm welcome back to the gut guy.
The gut guy.
Dr. Len Branswitz. Welcome back, Dr. Len.
Good afternoon, guys, and welcome. Welcome to everybody. I like being in this position. It's Friday. It's the end of this whole, the week that guys put on, and I want to try to draw everything together. I know the listeners have heard everything from yoga to stretching to heavy metals to probiotics, everything in between. How do you try to put this all together now and apply it to your life? And I want to try to give you some case studies and some ideas that I've been working with, and just a couple little tidbits I think that you'll find really interesting.
Well, I think that's the best of the best. We have you on at the end of the week to bring it all together. These testimonials are powerful, and this is what we're waiting for.
Yeah, before we get into testimonials, can you just give us a little bit of your background and, your journey starting out at Duquesne School of Pharmacy, actually one of the top pharmacy schools in the country, and how, with a personal passion, you made this whole transition. So he's the only one I know that has that diverse background, that has, the pharmacy. When, the old days, I remember I met him, he says, the pharmacy's job is not to give you medicine, it's to help you take it safely. Ooh. And he says it's very hard to do now because the patients are coming in demanding all these different medications, and the doctors sometimes don't even know that they're doing polypharmacy, right? Over-the-counter prescription. And, you're one of the few that actually took that journey all the way to now where he's retired, Joe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, can you tell?
Somewhat.
That's what I call retirement.
So let's hear a little bit about the journey, Len.
The journey, again, coming to Duquesne University, and I don't even want to talk about some of the times we had there, but I had a good time in college. But when I left Duquesne, I was on a program with Thrift Drug at the time in Pittsburgh. So they were having me do retail, but I decided to take just about 6 to 8 months off because when I graduated, I was focused on oncology. So I was working at Mercy Hospital. Everybody in Pittsburgh knows where that is. And I was working in the oncology wing. And what really got me going was that when we were there as, again, graduate students working with physicians, we were assigned beds. And that bed would be somebody that we would have to take care of for the whole course of the time that the people were there. And what got me, and this stuck with me from the very get-go, is that, again, this is 1980. When I would be assigned 5 beds and I would have to get the full lowdown of what's going on, help design the chemotherapy, whatever the therapy would be, there was virtually nothing as far as natural support. There was nothing as far as nutrition goes. These people were assigned to a bed, and typically the lifespan there in Mercy Hospital was about 9 days. So in 9 days, you'd follow it, you'd be friends with these people, you'd try to give them some tips and help them a little bit. Next thing you know, they were gone. So after about 6 months of this, I had had enough. I went into retail sales for a while. And it wasn't until I turned 39 years of age, so that was about 15 years later, that I went in for the first time to visit a doctor. Never visited a doctor in my life, and I found out that I had inherited from my father not only gout, but also serious cardiovascular problems. I had an abdominal aneurysm on my abdominal aorta, and the risk factor there was great. Now, I wasn't living the best lifestyle back then, but I started down the medical path. I was ending up from not taking any pharmaceuticals to taking 6. And I was hospitalized 3 different times during the course of the next year for seizures. And I was, the last time I was in the medical center of Beaver County on Valentine's Day weekend, and I was having EEGs done and everything else. And these doctors came in and said, we can't really figure out what's going on with you. And I said, I'm going to tell you what's wrong with me. Polypharmacy. That was it. I said, I am a pharmacist and I am on too many medications. I'm done. So I checked myself out. My wife took care of me. We went back home and she said, what are you going to do now? You're going to stop these. You're going to probably die. And I said, I'm 40 years old. I said, there's got to be a better way. And that's when I met Jim Laval way back in the day, another pharmacist who was then starting to teach with the Clinical Nutrition Board. So I went for a weekend course to the University of Chicago, and the light bulb went off. I started learning about food and supplements and natural therapies. And I said, I can do this. So I finished my degree in clinical nutrition. I got board certified there. Then little bits and pieces that Jim had given me about homeopathy. So I went back to the British Institute, took a 2-year course in 6 months, got a fellowship in the British Institute. And to this day, I still do a good bit of homeopathy. Then I decided to take a 9-year course in naturopathic medical doctorate through the New Mexico State University. And it was a long course, a long time. My old partner, Joe, and I did that together. And it really opened our eyes up on how to incorporate the medical side that we knew into the natural side that we now knew, and how you pair these things together. And I will say this, 9 out of 10 patients that I still see, and I still see 4 or 5 a week on average, virtually all of them are on a pharmaceutical. And virtually all of them have had a problem with those pharmaceuticals, either the wrong dose, the wrong medication, the wrong timing, or whatever. And having a pharmacy background made it somewhat easy to have a discussion with a doctor to say, hey, let's go from this to this. And I will typically get a lot of patients where, and I just had one of my case studies, on 3 different pharmaceuticals for blood pressure, morbidly obese, 58-year-old male, on 3 different medications, an ACE, an ARB, and another form of an ARB, and mixed with a calcium channel blocker, could not get his blood pressure under control. Now, again, the obesity problem was there. I started very gingerly with him. I adjusted what times of the day to take the medication. I started him on Circucor. Like, boom, I want to do this. I started out with 1 a day, then I went to 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening, then I went to 1 3 times a day. I took him up to 4 per day. And I started to get his circulation going, the beat that's in there. All of these different entities started to make a difference in his circulation. Then I layered in the fish oil with D, started to make a bigger difference yet. Then we started to see things change. Now, I will tell you this. I started using Candy Kill with him. You're going to probably say, like, what? Why? Did you suspect Candida? No, and I'm going to spend a little time talking about what's in Candy Kill, because I needed to get his blood sugars under control. And I have found amazingly, and I have a couple of research pieces here on the ingredients that are in Candy Kill that originally, and again, its primary focus was on getting rid of Candida, but the berberine extract that's in there and the combination, the synergism of the entities that are in there, they're called polynese, Polyyness. And I'm not going to get into the chemistry of this. They inhibit acetylcholinesterase. They do. And that brings more energy to the person on a cellular level, improves circulation, makes the heartbeat stronger. And guess what? His blood pressure went from an average of 170 over 120 down to 142 over 78. His doctor was ecstatic. Now, the next step is the longer we can stay with a protocol like that, and he used Candy Kill twice a day, and he's going to stay on that. The longer we're on those kind of preps, the better I think this is going to be. So eventually, we're going to try to get this fellow off of at least one of the other pharmaceuticals and try to keep working on the next step, which is getting his weight back down.
what are some of the classic signs and symptoms of somebody you would recommend Candy Kill for? Because when I was doing consults and we created Candy Kill, with your help, of course, I started putting everyone on it just to get them cleaned up for the first month because people are presenting with the same thing. They're toxic GI, nutritional deficiencies, and loaded with candida, right? It could
Exactly.
be blood sugar, it could be weight, it could be skin, it could be energy, digestion. But it seemed like just about everyone towards the end, I was using Candy Kill in the morning and probiotic at night. So what are some of the symptoms you're seeing? Because it helped me a lot too with blood sugar. I'm back on it now, and I could tell the difference right away.
You know, this may sound a little strange, but you know, when you first look at a person, now this fellow here was obese. I mean, he was about 305, you know, probably about 6 foot tall. I mean, when you looked at him and you saw the round face, the very pale skin, you know, like, are you not living? You're living in a cave. You're very, very pale. The eyeballs sort of drawn back, irregular bowel movements, itchiness in the skin, very dry skin, bags under the eyes. And it's like, okay, what's this have to do with candida? Typically, when the body is in a mode of fighting that, because it's a normal part of your gut, but when it starts to be prevalent, it starts to overcome the good bacteria, still has a role. When it starts to do that, it affects, the first thing that I notice is your skin. You'll start to see a difference in a patient's skin and their skin tone. They don't have the pink cheeks or the good flesh tones. They'll start to get very pale and drawn. And then they'll start to complain of itchiness and very, very dry skin. And they'll say, well, it's just the time of the year, it's allergies, whatever. So,
and Len, it could be diagnosed as what? Psoriasis, eczema, contact dermatitis, right? All these different things.
All the above. You know, I had a fella yesterday, which was really, I co-consulted with somebody that had a sexually transmitted disease. You know, it was a male that just wanted to talk to somebody privately. You know, he tried to avoid, you know, medical care, but I said, you're going to have to. But the first thing that I was going to say is, with this and all the different things his body's going to be fighting, Candy Kill, I went to twice a day with him, along with the probiotics 4 times a day, just to start to clean house a bit until he can get the medical care that he needs. So I'm starting to put that into so many different individuals. And I will tell you, for the most part, if you're having those kind of issues, if you can't control your blood pressure, if you can't control your blood sugar, and I'll give you a little bit more on the diabetes issue here in a minute, but it's a good place to get started and do it under the care of a practitioner that knows how to help you with that. It's a great idea. It's really a good product.
It's amazing. You know, we've had all of these workshops with you, Len, and you know, one would center around GI Complete or maybe IgG, and you have everybody you see on those formulas. Now he's found another, and everybody, you know, that he's working with now, he's using Candy Kill because sugar overgrowth in this country is an epidemic.
Yeah, I love the way you've described it and you simplified it for people. You got to starve the bugs by getting off the sugar, alcohol,
right?
Those types of things, right? Number 2, you have to kill them with the Candy Kill, and then you got to replace them with the probiotic, right? Because, you know, sometimes people make this functional medicine too complicated, right? And sometimes it can be as simple as that, right? Let's just cool down the intestinal tract. And I like how you also, maybe you can comment a little bit on this. He always layers the protocols in. He doesn't start with somebody with 10 products, right?
Right.
Because I'm turned off when people do that, and I know you are. He does it more methodically over every week or 2. He's making adjustments. He's adding things in. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that's part of your art form, is how you do that.
Well, the one thing that I remember from even in the pharmacy world was called compliance. It's a big deal. The human nature is, I don't want to do that, or, you know, whatever. And let me just say this at this point, because that is a great point. I typically will start out, and this was an old Jim LaValle-ism in the past, where he told me, looked me straight in the eye, and he said, if you can't do it with 4 supplements in the initial stages, you're not doing your work. You're not doing it right. So keep it there so that you have some compliance. Write it down for them. Give them either an electronic or a handwritten sheet with pure directions that they can put on their refrigerator so that they can keep tabs of this. You need to hold a person's hand. In today's world right now, and we were talking about this a little before we went on the air, for the first time in 5, maybe 6 years, I've had to raise my fees. Now, I didn't go up a tremendous amount, but I had to raise my fees. And you're going to say, well, why? Because the cost of just doing billing and the time involved and the shipping involved and everything else has gone up so dramatically. I didn't want to. But let me just say this. You had said in the very beginning, you talked about I think it was an oil filter ad back in the 70s, pay me now or pay me later. A lot of people right now are looking at the supplement world and saying, you know what? Just got back from Giant Eagle. What used to cost me $100 now costs me $200. And I just filled up my gas tank, and it used to be $40, and now it's $80. I don't have any money left for my supplements. Let me just say this. Pay me now, pay me later. One of the most important entities that you have as a person created by God is that you have a responsibility to take care of this body. This body's not yours. It's rented to you for the course of the time you have on this earth. And you have a responsibility to keep it healthy, because you can't take care of your kids. You can't really, even that food you're buying, you're not going to digest it properly. You're not going to be able to assimilate it properly. And what happens if you start to get ill? Now, I think everybody needs to take a tight look at their budget. I understand that. Maybe you need to fine tune a little bit. But for God's sake, please don't just stop. You've worked on it.
Yeah,
You've
you
worked with
can't, Len,
somebody.
because
Don't stop.
I drive by the Starbucks. It's wrapped around the corner. Chick-fil-A, they got 2 drive-throughs, and they're wrapped around the corner.
Mhm.
You go to a restaurant. I was up in New York for the Supply Side East in April. You couldn't get a table in Carmine's. They had them outside on the street. So, they printed a lot of free money the last couple of years. I know we're not going to get political, of course.
Of course.
But, what's going on right now is that people's priorities have gotten shaken up, right? And you're exactly right, because when we did the seminar last month in Pittsburgh, me and Dr. Tracy, we talked about how to biohack and maximize your human performance through the 4 stages of life. And we went from preconception all the way till death. And the whole theme was like, as you age, the clock is ticking. And sometimes it's too late. And hopefully you come here before it is too late, right? So I think what you're really saying here, what I'm hearing, Joe, is you got to do it now. And you can't put off, especially the food-based nutrition.
That's
The
right.
power cleanse and the greens. And I want to commend you, because we have a person on our team, Christine, and her husband. She come to the event, met Len, loved them, and they live near each other. I know Len's retired, but he took the time out of his schedule to work with her husband, who was suffering from prostate cancer. Here's an example of compliance, Len, right? This guy's not really compliant. His PSA had continually gone up the last couple of years. Len said, hey, he needs a good food-based program. I'm going to put him on 1 scoop of Power Cleanse, 1 scoop of greens twice a day, and that's it.
Wow.
She says, what about this and what about that? He says, no, that's it. You already have the products. Take that twice a day. And within 2 months, not even, for the first time in a couple of years, the PSA started coming down.
Yeah, and that just doesn't happen. If you know about male health and urology, once the PSA starts going up, even if they throw medications at you, you can usually stabilize it, but it very, very rarely goes down. And in this case, this was a fellow that had surgery prior, and that number should not have gone up at all. So when you see it start to rise, when it shouldn't at all, you start to get concerned that something's spreading in your body. And that was when I got that email back saying, my goodness, the numbers started to go back down into the normal range, and the doctors were astounded, just astounded.
Well, I think it tells us a lot about a couple of things, Joe.
Sure
One
does.
is how pro-inflammatory the food is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at the food-based nutrition like you do with Power Cleanse from Nutritional Frontiers, any of the colors,
Any of
greens,
the colors.
yet in GI Complete, folks, this should be on your grocery bill and your grocery budget, not on your supplement. Hey, I'll see if I can figure it out.
Well,
Because-
when he said, what used to cost 100 costs 200, let's see what's in that cart. right? How much is unessential is
Right.
in that cart?
You know, it's
Yeah.
funny. When
And
we went shopping yesterday, my wife and I did. Out down here, we have Winn-Dixie, and we walk in, and the first thing you see as you walk in the door is K-stacks of beer. I mean, just
oh,
mountains of beer. And then around the corner,
well, we can't take everything away, Len. You know,
you
come
got
on.
your Coca-Cola display, and then you go down a little bit
Yeah.
further. It was buy one get one free on mayonnaise. You know, and it's like, oh my goodness.
Well,
It's
that's what happens. We were talking the other day, and I'm sure you've seen quite a bit of this. And I'm always a big believer in you should substitute, right? So rather than a fried fish sandwich, maybe get wild caught fish,
right.
right? So, and it helps people. But, you know, they're very tricky, the food industry, because Joe was sharing with us the mayonnaise with olive oil,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And what's in it?
Soybean oil is the first
Yeah.
ingredient. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Way down the list, if you read that list, you'll find a little olive oil in there.
They dropped a little, you know, little pinch of olive oil to put on the label. So it's very confusing for people. So I like your philosophy of keeping it simple with the diet, eating real foods, right? Doing those shakes once or twice a day, because then you're halfway there.
Mm-hmm. Now, I want to share a study. You know, you've known me for a while, Jamie, about how studies, and I want to talk for a minute about Frontier Multi. Okay, you know, it's one of those ones that you have. It's in the mix. It's one of your top sellers. Not really talked about. You know, we go into these specialized products a lot, but that Frontier Multi sits in the background and just says, you know, it's there. It's a high quality prep. It's got the right methylated forms and the right nutrients put together in a form. Study came out April 19th, not this long ago. It said this was done in Germany. 93% of Germans say that a multi-supplement was, quote, essential to human life, end quote. Research conducted by the German Federal Institute of Risk Assessment confirms 1/3 of the population of Germany is taking supplements at least once a day to boost their vitamin levels. They canvassed like 10,000 German citizens. The survey found that 1 in 6 people take supplements daily. 93% believe supplements are essential for human life. Number one was a multivitamin. And when you talk about, you know, Centrum and some of the other nonsensical ones that are out there, and then you take a look at what I believe one of the most important things for a multiple is that it's in a capsule so that you can control the delivery of the nutrients. Those hard-pressed tablet things just don't make it. They usually pass through into the stool. Frontier Multi, energizing, easy to digest, easy to assimilate. You feel it almost immediately. That was number one in Germany, followed by vitamin D second, followed by B12 third, and then, interestingly, again in Germany, buffered vitamin C finished in 4th place. So when you
and
look
all those things are available in the multi, right?
exactly,
So we have those in the multi. We had Rick Harnish, you know, from Albion Minerals on this week, and he did an incredible presentation, actually showing all their research on. You had mentioned, you know, some of these inactive vitamins or these minerals that are bound, like magnesium oxides, right? They may absorb between 10 and 20%. With the chelated and the active vitamins and minerals, we're getting 40, 60, 80, 90% bioavailability. And that makes a huge difference. You're taking somebody who's nutritionally deficient, and now you give them something that their body can actually absorb.
Well,
and
Jamie,
assimilate.
I think that 10% is relative. That's in an ideal condition. Most people are not in an ideal condition. They're probably getting 0% out of those.
That's right.
Yeah, and some of them are even worse because they create more toxicity with the, you know, some of these dyes and additives and talc, and you know, it's really disappointing when you see some of these products what they're promoting for health.
Now, I want to give you a case study here. Well, look, I want to go through just some of the notes that I wrote down, knowing that I was coming on toward the end of the weeks that you were putting on. The most recent survey that showed the 5 biggest health concerns for individuals so far this year.
Okay.
Number 1, sleep. And I'm going to go into these individually. Number 2, constipation/diarrhea. Gut guy. Number 3, pain. Number 4, my immune system. And number 5, energy/adrenal health.
Wow, I don't hear the
weight
C
loss
in
didn't
there
appear.
anywhere.
Weight loss did not appear.
Cardiovascular, COVID, or cancer, right?
No.
None of
No,
them.
that's not a concern.
So when you look at that, so I just want to talk a little bit real quick on sleep, and I'm going to give you the case study on me. Jamie knows I went for almost 26 years not being able to sleep thoroughly.
Wow.
Restless, would wake up 2 or 3 times a night. I got to the point where I had to get every single clock out of the room, because I remember waking up at 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, looking at the red light, and then I changed it to a blue light. But anyway, long story short, I did neurotransmitter screenings on me 5 different times and found myself to be extremely deficient in GABA.
Mhm.
Now, I tried melatonin, I tried a lot of different things. And it was just when Jamie and I started looking at putting different products together, and the idea of sleep time came around. Enhancing GABA with a little bit of melatonin in there, and just enough of the calming agents to see if it could make a difference. Now, amazingly, I started on with 1 at bedtime. I'm right now every night, and this is my 10th year in a row, 2 at bedtime along with one of the mag completes. Okay, that combination, and again, the magnesium seems to seal the deal in a lot of cases, just enough calming of the muscular so that you don't tense up. You put that into place most times, and in my case, sleep came, and I love it now that my head can hit the pillow and I sleep all night. You know, I hear these commercials now on TV for Relaxium and all these different preps. When you have a prep like Sleep Time, which I will tell you, the success I've had with that, I cannot ever tell you that it has, you know, God help us, it hasn't failed in somebody. You know, I've gone as high as 3 at bedtime to at least get them to a loading place so that it would start to work properly. But typically, when I add that mag prep along with it, we started to enhance sleep and got the body back into normality.
Yeah, that's interesting, Len, because I remember you were involved with us making that formula, and I was reading Julia Ross's book, Diet Cures,
Oh yeah.
and it looked at neurotransmitter balancing for diet, for weight loss. And so I broke it into 4 categories, one of which was a sleep prep,
Sure.
right? And then you and also Tom Bolello called me the same week and said, hey, we need something better than Cabernet PM.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's halfway there. I says, you know, I'm working on something. Let me show you guys. And they both instantly jumped on it. And that helped me too, because I was dealing really insomnia for about 10 years. You know, I would sleep for maybe 30 to 40 minutes at a time. In fact, I asked Joe on the road one time, we were at breakfast, I said, Joe, did you lay down last night and fall asleep and wake up today? He's like, yes. Why are you asking? I was like, I said, I had no hope, Len. I said, I don't think I could ever sleep again because I just accepted it, right? People accept those things as being normal, and it wasn't.
Right.
And I started on the sleep time. The other thing I like to add in for somebody at the beginning, the magnesium is great. And the other thing is Adrenamax, because if their cortisol levels are real high, you had mentioned adrenal somewhere number 5 on the list. So do 3 Adrenamax in the morning. I actually do 4. And I do 3 sleep time at night. Sometimes 2. 4 is too much. 2 maybe. So 3 is about just right. So I like the Adrenamax in the morning, Mag Complete, and sleep time at night.
Well, you know, that the funny thing about sleep time is it's so versatile. And you can, some people only need 1 capsule. Some need 3 or 4. Some most need 2. But it's also safe for kids. We've had pharmacists that will take the capsules, open them up, mix them in a little juice or water, use a syringe and squirt it in a child's mouth. Now, we had a pharmacist, Len, and his son was 5, 6 years old, went through this whole crap with schools and masks and COVID, and his kid just couldn't sleep. He was so upset. He used the sleep time with his 6-year-old, and it worked like a charm. No adverse effects. And the other thing about sleep time, and I don't know if I told you this before or not, I think I did, it works against night terrors as well.
You know, it's a powerful prep, and it's, again, the synergism of the nutrients that are in there that put together in such a way that it actually enhances and lets the brain calm down, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's interesting when you look at some of the formulas on the market. It could be prescription or over the counter. A lot of them either help you fall asleep or try and keep you asleep.
Well, they knock
And,
you out.
yeah, and then things like Ambien, even I'm going to ask you that in a minute. Maybe don't even help with sleep, but more memory erasers. The other challenge is a lot of these things you build up a tolerance.
Sure.
We find with sleep time, you actually don't need as much over time.
Right.
I was at 5 at one point, then 4, and now 3 is a sweet spot. So can you talk about Ambien? Because I've been told that it doesn't really help you sleep, but it erases your memory, or kind of, is that true,
Well,
or what's your thoughts on
it,
that? 'Cause
it's
I know
extremely
Tiger
true.
Woods didn't have a pleasurable experience on it, so
Exactly. Um, it works centrally, which means versus what we're talking about with sleep time, which means you're enhancing in the bloodstream a nutrient that can cross the blood-brain barrier and go to the neurotransmitters that are addressing the shutdown and the transmission of the brain to the body, that communication pathway. Ambien comes in and basically blocks communication down the spine. So it is attempting to shut the brain off from the body so that if you lose that communication, the hope was the body would start to go into a deep period of sleep. Here's the problem. We cut that off and it starts to lose communication with what? My heart,
yeah. What else are we losing
lung,
communication?
the entire body. So what happens immediately is the brain starts to sense that. And it's almost like there's a panic and it'll start to send extremely high levels of stimulation to the adrenal glands in an attempt to compensate around that loss of communication. The adrenals start to pump out excessive cortisol. Okay. So you are tranquilized basically, but the brain now is receiving a backdoor signal to wake up. So you are basically incoherent, sort of like if you've ever had pre-surgery where they put you into that twilight sleep, one of those situations. So the brain all of a sudden says, okay, I got to wake up, but I'm still tranquilized. So you have people that have complete loss of whatever happened. They've actually gone up, gone down, ate dinner. Some people have gone as far as getting into a car and going for a ride and going to the store and not remembering in the morning anything that happened because the brain was operating separate from the body. Very dangerous, not good idea at all. And I'm hoping now that most doctors have now realized that and said, we got to get into some other field rather than Ambien. It's just not a safe drug.
Yeah, I'm glad you're talking about sleep because we know that's been a big issue for people the last probably 10 years at least. And now with the whole thing going on with COVID and people being isolated, more people working from home, they have all this anxiety and pent up energy about a lot of fear, and they don't have an outlet for it. So now at least we have some hope. The other thing I recommend when they're doing something like sleep time is, in the morning, go for that walk, right? Get some fresh air, get the body moving, get some exercise in, do your prayers, do your meditation. It's nice when people take on a little more of the program. However, even if they didn't, the sleep time works really well. I actually got an email from Australia a few years ago. The woman was at the LAX, or Los Angeles airport, and she was sitting there talking to somebody back in the days when you would talk to people at the airport. And the woman says, "Oh, I have not slept well." She goes, "Oh, I have this sample of sleep time. It was an 8 count." Generously gives it to the woman, and then lo and behold, she takes 2 on the flight, slept like a baby, and then was emailing us to give us that feedback. So very, very therapeutic formula. I think the only time it doesn't work is when people's cortisol level won't cool down at night.
Right.
So probably 90 to 95% success.
Absolutely.
And the only thing you might want to add is the Adrenamax in the morning.
Yeah.
I want to give you. Can I give you another case study? I want to give you.
Yeah, please do.
I want to give you my wife's case study, and Jamie knows the story. You met my wife a couple times. She had severe scoliosis as a child, and that scoliosis got to the point where she actually lost about 3.5 inches of her height, and her right shoulder was nearly 6 inches out to the right. So you picture that curvature, you couldn't stand up straight. That put such a tension on the tensile strength of the spine that she's had spinal surgery now for the 4th time. She's had it all the way up to the top of the cervical spine. She had almost 19 different rods in her neck, in her upper back, in her thoracic spine. They put in 52 rods. And then just recently, She had her lumbar spine done, and they had to do a reattachment of nerves, and they had to do a drilling, and she now has nearly 90 rods in her body. Okay, so the pain levels were dramatic. She's been under pain management now for the last year and a half, just to help her get through this. So I finally said to her, will you let me just try something, please? So I bought her, just follow this for a second. I bought her a Yeti, the big Yeti. And every morning it sits on the counter, I wash it out, and I do a combination, 2 scoops GI Complete, 2 scoops X-Flame, 2 scoops Buffered C, and I open a probiotic in there. Okay? I shake it up, add a little ice, and she drinks this over the course of the day. She's been doing this, is now month 3. Okay? She is now 80% pain-free. She's walking with a cane. She's now walking upright. She's now going to be eliminating pain management. She's now going to the gym with me 3 days a week and working out in Nautilus. This is a change of somebody that never believed that natural products can make a difference. She said the first thing she noted when I added the X-Flame to this drink was her hands didn't hurt anymore, because she was getting this radiating pain down her hands. That X-Flame just calmed it down. So those powders put together for somebody that may be a little non-compliant to get it, like Yeti or something like that, and just don't make it a task. It actually, she likes the taste of it. When you put all the orange.
Yeah, I like the idea too of you having it sipping over the course of a day, right? Because most people aren't getting water in, right?
Right.
They get flavor fatigue from water. Now you're able to combine both, and you can just sip it all day. I love that concept, and we actually have our own Yeti at Nutritional Frontiers, the free blender bottle show.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
So I love it. 2 scoops of GI Complete.
Yeah, do that again, Len.
2 scoops of
GI Complete, 2 scoops of X-Flame, 2 scoops of Buffered C. I wanted to alkalize the body a bit. Okay, and I just opened up 1 probiotic in there with it. And that has just kept that whole thing going day. We actually had a hockey party last night because Tampa Bay's team's in the playoffs. So we went over to our clubhouse, and everybody else is there with a beer or something else. She has her Yeti. She was over there last night. Yeti number 2. What are you drinking now? Drinking my Yeti.
Margarita.
So you also followed the 4-product protocol you mentioned earlier.
We managed to get that in there. Now,
all about compliance.
I know we're probably coming a little close on time here, but I cannot let this go without talking about that immune pack, the immune kit.
Yes.
I don't know if you listened to the news this morning, but here it's coming. I'm telling you, it's coming again. We've already seen Fauci has climbed out from underneath the rock. That head of the CDC comes out from underneath her rock. We want to lock everybody down. We want to mask everybody up because, oh my God, COVID cases are up. But just this morning, the first documented case of monkeypox in Massachusetts. I'd never heard of it. Monkeypox is another form of smallpox.
Smallpox, yeah.
Okay, and now they're starting to say
monkeypox. Monkeypox sounds a lot more dangerous and scary than smallpox, right?
It's terminal. It's a terminal disease. But anyway, they brought this up again with the concept of saying it's time to get revaccinated on your smallpox vaccine. They're going into that now. So we're going to have not only a COVID, but they're now going to start saying all of us need to have a smallpox booster on top of this. I will tell you this. What I have found through this whole COVID nightmare, that when you use, and I love the idea of quercetin in there, the buffered vitamin C and the zinc, that combination, if you continue on that, and if you want to go to the number 4, I'll put in GI Complete on top of there. But that immune kit has just given you everything that you need. And if you don't have one of these in your household right now, you're missing the boat, because you know what's going to happen. It's going to be Saturday night and somebody's going to start coughing and not feeling well, and you're not going to have any access to anything. And then all of a sudden you're going to say, like, well, what do I need to do? I got to call somebody. How much do I take? This spells it out in its entirety. Your vitamin D, your zinc, all in there.
you bring up a great point, Len. We were talking about this the other day. Is how far can you go into the woods or into the body? Halfway, right? And you have to go out. So what happens is when people say it's got to run its course, because they waited 3 or 4 or 5 days. So I recommend they have the immune kit. They take 1 capsule every day of each.
Yep.
And when they're showing that first sign or symptom, for me, it's a change in body temperature. What's your first symptom?
With me, it's a tickle in the back of the throat.
Yeah, that gets to be one of the biggies, the tickle in the throat.
So if you have this in your house and you have it in your body, now all you got to do is increase the dosing up to 4, 6, or whatever per day, right? The challenge is if they don't get it, Len, and like you said, it comes on Saturday night, think it's going to go away. Here we are Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. It's too late. Even for medical intervention, it's too late. It's already deep in the tissue.
Yep. It's great.
So how do you recommend this protocol? Do you do the similar thing, 1 a day?
Same thing. I just get it in the household, give everybody 1 of each all day. How simple can that be? And then if you start to feel things, double up on the dose initially. And if it's an adult, I would go to a triple dose just for maybe 5 to 7 days, knock it out of your system, and then move on. But it's all
spread it out over the course of the day. Yeah. I like how you do that with your wife. Spread it out over the course of the day. You don't need to take it all at one time. Spread it out whenever you can get in over the course of the day is going to help you. And this immune kit is something you got to have on stock at all times. So what's the best way now, Len? I know you have a new website. What's the best way for people to contact you for an appointment or to buy products?
Still, we have a toll-free number set up. It's 888-231-5325. 888-231-5325. You can leave a message there, and we'll get back to you. It'll be the easiest way.
And what about consults? Are you still doing consults?
Yeah, I still have my patient base. I brought all my files down here when we closed up the office due to Biden economics again. But it is something that I'm keeping in touch with all my current patients, and I'm assisting a lot of the other practitioners in the area. But I'm still taking new patients that may just be stuck and need a little bit of an assistance, even if it's just from the pharmaceutical side. I do a lot of that in the meantime.
If you're a healthcare professional out there, he's been working with Natalie in the field. He's working with Christine. He's working with his clients. I love how he's retired, Joe.
Yeah.
It sounds like a nice retirement, and keep him busy. And, he's been such a blessing to the community, helping so many people. And we really appreciate that because now more than ever, people need your help.
Absolutely.
Do we have time for one more quick thing?
One more. Yeah, yes, let's go. Drum roll.
We just finished our second tier. This is our second layout since January on our weight loss protocol. And I will tell you, we're hitting 90%. Phase 1. And again, we did this over a 3-month period. We started with an anti-inflammatory diet. In phase 1, we used Power Cleanse every morning, greens every evening. Did that for 30 days. In the second month, kept on the Power Cleanse, kept on the greens, added the Power Fuel each morning and at lunchtime. We did it in the morning and at lunch. So we re-energized the system. In month 3, we added in the various appetite suppressants, but the biggie was the conjugated linoleic acid, the tonalline. We put that in at 2 capsules 3 times a day to hit a home run. And that had really made a tremendous difference. And for those, we held their hand through this whole thing. But I'm going to tell you, Power Cleanse over a 90-day period of time, greens over a 90-day period of time, the energy booster with the D-ribose and the Power Fuel, and then coming in with the tonalline, hit a home run 90% of the times from what I'm seeing. You got to be focused. You got to say, I'm laying this out over 90 days. We've had great success using that protocol, and it typically would get anywhere from a 10. We've had as much as a 28% weight loss.
Wow, that's incredible. So there you go, folks. We got the gut guy, Dr. Len.
And the protocol guy. He's both.
Many protocols. We're excited to have you coming back to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Saturday, August 6th for the World Health Expert Panel discussion. And Len's going to bring it home for us that weekend with protocols. So if you're a healthcare professional and you want help, Dr. Len can help you. If you're a patient or consumer, same way. So thanks so much, Dr. Len.
Good to see you guys. I'll get that recipe over to you, Joe.
All right,
have
buddy.
a great day and God bless.
See you soon.
God bless you too. Take care now.